Hey, it's Emily. I've got my brother Darren working hard for me on my Audi. He's replacing my brake pads. My sensor in the car told me it was time to change my brake pads. So here he is in 100-degree heat. Darren, can you tell us what you're doing?
Okay, we're gonna take off the brake sensor. So we gotta take off the connector first. It's got a little clip we have to push off. And it sits in this little holder. Let's see if we can push it down.
What kind of tools do you need to get this job done?
So with the screwdriver, it's just a flat blade. It has a little release that gets pushed down. And once that sensor's off, it actually loops around on the caliper. So we'll pull it off that side there.
Okay.
And it goes in this little groove here of the caliper. And now that's loose. The sensor goes on each pad, and then it loops in that bracket there. So now to get these calipers out, we have this long pivot bolt here.
Oh, I see that pin, yep.
And so we use a
Goes through a
13. So we use a 13 mil wrench to get this bolt off on this other side. So once that turns, we'll get our socket. We'll undo this just a little bit, and then we'll use a dead blow hammer to hit this pin, and this pin.
That's a dead blow hammer. It looks like a mallet.
We'll call it a mallet here. So we'll hit this.
To loosen that pin.
And as we hit that pin's coming loose now. So you only want to take this bolt out just a little bit so there's still some threads. So we don't want to ruin those threads on it. But once we get that started, now it's started. And then I've got a screwdriver that I'll put in the back side of it.
Okay, let me see if I can get in here. Okay.
So that bolt holds that pin in
Got
place.
it. Okay.
And that holds the brake pads in place in the caliper.
Okay.
So that's all it's holding those the brake pads in, is this pivot bolt here.
Okay.
So now I'll put this screwdriver in the back side here, and that'll bottom out, and then we'll hit this.
Oh, there it goes.
And then that's the way for us to get that pin out. And there's a little bit of tension on it. It's kind of springy with that bracket.
What if you don't have a dead bolt hammer? Can you just use
Dead
a
blow?
regular hammer? Oh yeah.
You could use
dead blow.
Yeah, but this dead blow is really nice. It's weighted, has BBs in it.
Oh, it's like the shake weight.
Yeah, so when it hits, it has a little more power to it.
Okay.
And so we're trying to get this pivot out. So a lot of room to hit. There we go. Okay, so now wiggle that thing out.
Yep.
So our bracket
Okay.
can pop off now.
That metal.
It's being held in by those this sensor. So we'll see if we can pop that wire out.
It's nice to have that sensor so you know when it's time to fix your brakes. They
Right.
did start squealing just a little tiny bit.
So to get these pads out, it has these little rollers. I'm not sure exactly what they're for, but they work great
As prying.
to pry them out. Maybe that's exactly what they're for, I don't know.
Okay, so Darren bought my new brake pads at,
Rock Auto.
and they were like, what? How much?
55, no, they were, yeah, something like 55 or 60 bucks, and then you have to
And
get
then
the
the sensors were separate, and you want those too. And if you go to an Audi dealership to get your brake pads replaced, I think you're talking upwards of $800, don't you think, Darren?
I can't remember what they quoted, but it's pretty expensive. And honestly, these are some of the easier brake pads to replace. The caliper doesn't even have to come off.
There's one.
So these are the sensors. You can see where it's starting to wear away
But it hasn't broken through yet.
Hasn't broken through yet, and this
But
side's
my
starting
light
to
was
work.
coming on, so one
So,
on the other side,
on the other
was
side.
broken.
So now with this caliper, we have the pistons.
Hang on, let me get up to that caliper. Okay.
So this caliper is actually made by Brembo, and it's a 6 piston caliper. So we have 3 pistons
Do you see those pistons in there?
on each side.
You have to push them in.
So we'll just use a
Wrench?
bigger wrench here.
Oh yeah, I can see that really well.
So we'll just go
Okay.
back and forth and get these
Pushed back in.
pushed back in until it.
Kind of like when you push one and another one pops out.
So then
And you do that so the new brake pad
new
will
brake
fit,
pad,
because it's
just
much
sits
thicker
right in
than
there.
that other one that was worn down.
and now we just do the same thing on this other side.
Okay. Push in the
Piston, yeah.
And you just keep pushing them in. Until
They make a tool for this so you can do it all together, but we're not gonna bother with it.
you're
I have
using a
the
flathead.
tool, but it's so quick and easy.
Okay,
That's
and
all I
there
have
goes
to do.
the other.
So
new.
now that's on. The bracket fits here, and now with the bracket there, we can put
The new
this
sensor
pin
on.
back on. The sensor
Oh.
goes on last.
Okay, the sensor goes on last. So now we're putting the pin back through both new pads. I really appreciate you doing this for me, Darren. Darren knows a lot about cars.
And then we've got to get this turned.
So what are you gonna use?
I'll use that wrench. Turn it. It has flats on it. Those flats recess in there. So that is on.
Okay.
And then
Now the sensors.
now this
Oh, that goes on the other
bolt
side.
goes
of
on
the
this
pin.
side, and that's what holds the pin in place.
Okay.
So that's got to be held in there nice and tight. Again, we're using the 13 mil on that.
13 mil.
13 millimeter.
Okay. Gotta tighten that baby so your brakes don't come out. We're 8 minutes into this job,
Okay.
and you still need to put the sensors on and then the tire back on.
Yep.
So you could do
But
this
those brake
job.
pads are on.
You could do the whole job, both front wheels, in half an hour or less.
Yeah, if you have. If you're moving, if you're cruising. All right, here's our sensor. These are the brake pad sensors, the wear sensors. And these will go down. Each brake pad has a little notch, and the sensor will go down in there. And this section here will wear away when the brake pads get low enough. And there's a wire.
Show us on one of the old ones.
Okay. And that wire, that's a little black piece there. So here's one of the old ones. You can see where it's wearing down. It didn't break the wire yet, so the light didn't
Yeah.
come on that one. Here's the other one. And that one has worn a little bit more, but it still has continuity, but you can
Right.
see where
It's about
once
to break.
once that wire is broken, is worn through, then your brake light warning will come on. And the sensors, so we put one in the outside. I'll go in this direction. Goes,
See if I can get a better angle. Oh, it just snaps in?
it just snaps into that. There's a groove, a notch in each brake pad,
Okay.
and it snaps in. So then this is going to go underneath here,
And that one
That
will
clip.
clip.
and then it's going to snap into this notch. Make sure it goes down. So now that's in all the way.
Okay. So that's what we have so far.
And then this wire goes through
Oh yeah.
this notch, and this is in the actual caliper itself, and it goes in there.
I see that.
So that holds it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll come around here on the opposite side of the bleed nipple there, and that'll hold it against the caliper. And then it goes into this connector. So we just,
I don't know if I'm getting that.
my hand's probably in the way, but I'll move it as soon as I get it started. This is a tight fit getting it back into this bracket, but there it goes. This connector just pops in, and it'll snap. You hear that snap?
Oh yeah.
So now that's done. That's connected. Our sensors are installed.
Okay.
Now all we have left to do is install the wheels, and it's done.
Great.
All right, so here's one of the brake pads that we've replaced. Just to show you the way the sensors go, we have this notch, and that sensor goes with the bigger side towards the brake pad itself. And it just goes down in that notch. It should just clip down in there. This one's a little bit, it's got brake dust all over it, but it'll snap down inside that notch. And you can see where, as the brake pad wears, it wears this sensor down as well.
You don't have to put the sensor on, it just makes sure that you know your brake pads are bad.
If you don't put the sensor on, your
just
brake,
listen for the squeal.
your brake light will be on all the time.
Oh.
Because it's looking for continuity. So those two pins have to be connected. So the voltage going in has to be shown coming out as well. So if
a sensor is
if you don't put the sensor in, you will have a brake light.
Okay.
If you don't need the sensor, you could clip those wires and twist them together, and then you wouldn't have a sensor and you would not have a brake light. And so that's a trick. If you don't have sensors, you can do that so your brake light goes out. But the sensors were $6.
Yeah, it was $5.99 at the local
the Napa
auto parts store.
Napa's the only one that carried it. O'Reilly and AutoZone did not have it, but our Napa store did carry it.
$5.99. So just get it.
And it'll save you. It's nice to know when your brakes are about done.
Yeah, so my light went on, I'd say 2 weeks ago, and I've been driving it.
There's still enough pad there for a safety buffer. You're not going to ruin your rotors to drive around for a month after the light goes on.
Yeah.
But don't drive it much longer than that.
Yeah. Thanks, Darren.